Does anybody listening know what a scapegoat is? You probably do, right? A scapegoat is someone that you place all the blame and all the problems on, even though they really had nothing to do with it. They're wrongfully accused of being the issue. It's not right. It's unfair. But admit it, it happens all the time in our society. It happens in politics. It happens in entertainment. It happens in sports many times. In the NFL, for example, we all know the quarterback gets too much credit and too much blame. The head coach right there too. In baseball, usually the manager is the one who has to pay the price. We all know Joe Madden did. Joe Madden paid the price for the Cubs' offensive struggles in 2019. But in retrospect, was he really the problem? No. It happens too much because people up top are trying to save their jobs. That's happening again with the Chicago Cubs. It was a minor news detail, but it happened this past weekend. The Cubs announced that they'd be getting rid of their assistant hitting coach, Terrmel Sledge. Here's the official news story on it. It's only 2 paragraphs long. I'm going to read the whole thing. Quote, "The seemingly annual fallout from the Cubs' offensive disappointment has begun. The Cubs will let assistant hitting coach Terrmel Sledge go," the Athletic Chicago reported Friday afternoon. Sledge had been with the team for 2 seasons, and his contract is set to expire soon. Hitting coach Anthony Iapase is expected to return to the Cubs in 2021. He has 1 season left on his deal. The Cubs were 20th in Major League Baseball and averaging 4.42 runs per game in 2020. They were 21st with a 705 OPS. You may not have even seen this story. It came out on Saturday night, and again, it's 2 paragraphs long. I guarantee you that wherever you get your sports news from, this will be the only show that will actually address this. I'm telling you right now, this was not big news. No one cared about it. It was not spread around. Just a little blurb. There's a reason why, if you didn't catch my drift already. There's a reason why this will not make headlines. There's a reason why no one's going to talk about it. Let me read you this again, okay? The Cubs will let assistant hitting coach Terrmel Sledge go. Hitting coach Anthony Iapase will be retained. The Cubs were 20th in the MLB and averaging 4.42 runs per game in 2020. They were 21st with a 705 OPS. What does that tell you? What I just read you, what does that tell you right off the bat? Terrmel Sledge is the scapegoat. Terrmel Sledge is being blamed for the Cubs' 2020 hitting issues. Are you kidding me? He's an assistant hitting coach. If I had to guess on a scale of 1 to 10 as to how much he affected in-game performance, I'd say a 1 or a 2 at most. When we think of who's most responsible for the Cubs' issues in 2020, Terrmel Sledge doesn't even make the list. We could blame the manager. We could blame the hitting coach. We could blame the players themselves before we get to Terrmel Sledge, an assistant hitting coach who had little to no influence on this team's performance. That's a fact. Don't tell me I'm wrong. That's a fact. What does he have to do with anything for this Cubs team? What influence did he have? And I picked up this article on purpose because what they try to do here is pin the Cubs' team-wide offensive struggles on Sledge. Right? They mentioned those stats. 20th in Major League Baseball and averaging 4.42 runs per game. They were 21st with a 705 OPS. Oh, by the way, Terrmel Sledge is gone. See what they did there? And the lead. The seemingly annual fallout from the Cubs' offensive disappointment has begun. Annual fallout. This happens every year. But what doesn't change for the Cubs? Their personnel, their hitting coach, and the guys up top. Last year, the scapegoat was Joe Madden. It's fine, we have David Ross now. We're going to win again in 2020. Everyone who struggled down the stretch, they're going to be back and ready to go. Now, this year, the season ends, of course, in disappointment, like it does every year for this team. There's more fallout, only it's not Theo, it's not Jed, it's not David Ross, it's not the players, it's Terrmel Sledge who gets the axe. What? Let me get this straight here. We're going to blame the assistant hitting coach, a guy who has no influence on in-game performance, instead of blaming the guys who actually couldn't play. We're going to blame Terrmel Sledge for Kris Bryant being a bust, for Javier Baez striking out 75 times, for Kyle Schwarber being another bust. Right, it's Terrmel Sledge's fault that this team couldn't hit and their prospects couldn't prosper. That's what we're going to do, right? That's what it looks like to me. I read you the story. I'm reporting on this. The Cubs for years have been a classy organization. I may not agree with everything they do, but they are classy. They epitomize what it means to be a major league team. This move was not classy at all. This is the exception. You're blaming some low-level hitting coach for a team-wide problem. You're blaming Terrmel Sledge for Kris Bryant not hitting, for Javier Baez striking out 75 times, for Kyle Schwarber regressing. What about the head hitting coach? What about the manager? What about the players themselves? What about Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer? There are 4 or 5 other people you could point your finger at before you even think about Terrmel Sledge. But that's the route the Cubs want to go. They're going to try and pin all of this blame on someone who is so insignificant. Show of hands. Does anyone even know who Terrmel Sledge is? Did anyone know who he was before he got fired? No, you didn't. No one did. No one cared to know. You know why? He didn't influence anything. Had no influence on in-game performance. Had no influence on any of these guys and their hitting. Yet today, it's him who's gone. It's him who's being blamed for everything that happened. I can't believe this. The article that I read you was 3 paragraphs long and was so insignificant. This was a Saturday night news dump. No one's going to talk about this, but it's so telling and apparent. Terrmel Sledge is the scapegoat for what the Cubs did in 2020, and that is so wrong. We're not going to blame the players. We're not going to blame the head hitting coach. We're not going to blame the manager. We're not going to blame Theo and Jed. We're going to blame the assistant hitting coach. I can't believe they're retaining Anthony Iapase on top of it. They're retaining the head coach, the head hitting coach. They're firing the assistant, and they're placing the blame of their offensive struggles on the assistant. It's comical. You laugh at it because it's ridiculous. And no one else will report on this. I guarantee it. No one else will talk about this. But it gives out such a profound signal. We've talked about that on this show before. Remember, signaling. Indirect signals to explain direct behaviors. The firing of Terrmel Sledge is a signal. It signals to everybody that apparently, according to the Cubs, he's the one who was responsible for what happened this year. Theo, Jed, you're wrong. You're responsible for it. Your players are responsible for it. Your head hitting coach is responsible for it. Your manager. Not Terrmel Sledge. Some assistant hitting coach who had no influence on in-game performance. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Tell the truth. Tell us what's really going on. Stop hiding behind some assistant hitting coach. Stop hiding behind low-level employees and tell us the truth. We know why you guys couldn't hit this year. We know why you screwed up again. Newsflash, it had nothing to do with Terrmel Sledge. It had everything to do with your personnel and your core. The core is done. It's expired. None of them can perform, and all you did was talk them up for years. Schwarber's going to be great. Bryant's going to be great. Baez is going to be great. All of them did nothing this year. Stop trying to save your jobs. We're looking behind the curtain now. We know what's really wrong with this team. Mismanagement at the top, and horrible hitting, and the over-evaluation of prospects to satisfy the Cubs fan base. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. This is an egregious firing. Firing Terrmel Sledge, blaming him for what happened this year. I'd love to know if Chris Bryant, if Baez, if Schwarber even knew who Terrmel Sledge was. He was so insignificant. An assistant hitting coach. He did nothing. Nothing. No one talked about him all year. No one mentioned his name. I didn't see him making radio rounds talking about the Cubs. No one interviewed him. He never had a press conference. He was never asked, why is this team not hitting? So then why is he fired? Two years ago, Theo and Jed made Joe Maddon the scapegoat. That was wrong. Today, they're making someone with little influence a bigger scapegoat. Wrong again. Be honest with your fan base because slowly but surely they're leaving. They're done with this. No one wants to deal with it anymore. You sit here for years and overvalue players who are sorry excuses for the Cubs organization. Bryant, Schwarber, Baez. I don't care about the World Series. It's over. We're talking about 2020. And the best you can do is fire an assistant hitting coach, not trade, not release anybody, and keep the entire coaching staff the same. The head hitting coach is staying. The assistant is fired. Tell me how that makes sense. I just shake my head and wonder sometimes, what's going on over there? The guy above the guy who got fired gets to stay. The head hitting coach gets to stay. The manager gets to stay. These players get to stay. But some low-level assistant gets the axe. The Cubs were 20th, averaging 4.42 runs per game. They were 21st with a 705 OPS. Wait a minute. All of that goes on Terrmel Sledge? None of it goes on the other pieces of this organization. So Theo and Jed, no. David Ross, no. Anthony Iapase, the head hitting coach, no. The players, no. Does anybody see through this story? Does anybody realize what's really going on here again? Once again, there's another scapegoat who's been wrongfully fired for no reason. Why aren't we talking about this more? Why is there no outrage? Why aren't people saying, enough already? Start the rebuild. Evaluate who you have fairly. Stop lying to us. I don't understand it sometimes. I really don't. This is utterly abhorrent and apparent to everybody. If you deny it, if you believe it isn't happening, it already has. I don't know about you, but I've sure as hell had enough of Theo and Jed and the way things are being run. And this one did it for me. To blame a low-level guy, how stupid do you think we are? Serious question. You think we're going to buy this explanation? Yeah, it was Terrmel Sledge, you're right. If the Cubs can get another assistant hitting coach, they'll be fine. They'll be good. They'll be back at it. How stupid do you think we are? Blaming somebody so insignificant for the big picture problem. The big picture problem is this franchise is being mismanaged, and they held on to assets for too long who were utterly worthless. That's the problem here. This has nothing to do with Terrmel Sledge or with other low-level employees. This has everything to do with players themselves and the way they've been valued over the years. If you're not outraged about this, I don't know what to tell you. This is a clear sign that the Cubs have no clue what they're doing. Firing people like that on a whim who have no influence, and keeping the people who were responsible for the team's demise. I don't get it. And I can't believe that we sit here today and still say that Theo and Jed and all of them have done an excellent job. I saw polls the other day on Twitter, everyone giving Theo an A because of the World Series. Again, it's over. It's 2020. It's not 2016. Move on. 99% of Major League Baseball has moved on from that World Series. The only people still holding on to it are the Cubs franchise and their fan base. It's over. And this firing is something that you should be enraged about. You should take it personally. It's an insult to you. They think that you're stupid enough to sit here and just buy it. Yep, Terrmel Sledge was the issue. No, it wasn't. And we know that. So speak up, say something. Because this behavior, this scapegoating behavior, is ridiculous and it's wrong. And I'm sick of talking about it. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Dr. Willie Wilson comes up next, so stay tuned. What a World Series, huh? All tied up now. Rays made a great comeback. How would you like a piece of the action? I can give you $250 free dollars to bet on the World Series. All you have to do is this. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. Illinois residents only. You have to be 21 and over. You will get $250 free dollars to bet on the World Series or any other game you'd like coming up this week. It's a great system, easy to use, and you can make a lot of money. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.